So the goal of this video is just to give people who are evaluating Halo a bit of a feel for the platform. It's not a implementation guide, it's not a curated demo, and in fact this instance that you see here is a brand new trial that you can create from the Halo website. The only modification I've made is just changing the color from the out-of-the-box Halo blue, which I personally think looks not very nice, so change it to blue. That's the only change we've made, and really just want to focus on what the system looks like in practice from an implementation consultant's point of view, which should hopefully give you a good sense for how the platform sort of operates and all comes together. We'll go through both a bit of the end user experience as well as the agent and admin experience as well. So what is Halo? Halo is definitely more than just a ticketing tool. It can cover, of course, ITSM, service desk, service portal, request management as well. And not just for IT teams. We often see implementations span into HR, facilities, payroll, and even non-IT or non-standard workflows as well can be adapted with Halo because it is quite a flexible platform. Workflows, approvals, assets, CMDB, knowledge, reporting, automation, almost every core feature you'd expect from an ITSM platform, there's a very good chance you'd see it within Halo. And in fact, from this home screen here, you can see on the left side pane, we've got access to a lot of those different areas, some of which you might not see in other platforms: inventory and stock control, software releases, time management, so timesheets and shifts, purchase orders and quotes, document management, chat, and there's probably even a couple more that haven't been enabled out of the box. So when logging in as an agent, this is the first screen you'll see, and what we're looking at is a dashboard in the center that's been pre-configured. At the top, we've got our search options, our profile, and the ability to switch to the end user portal and to view our account preferences. And on the left side pane is our main way we're going to navigate Halo and the different screens. So our different ticket areas, major incidents, problems, our CRM, CMDB, but also as an admin, any configuration would be reached from this left side menu. So this is effectively everything and every space you'd ever want to enter within Halo, with the exception for a few bits and pieces such as your account preferences, password and security. Let's switch over to the end user portal. Because I'm a licensed agent in the platform, I have that option to switch to the end user portal and back to the agent portal. And once this loads, we'll quickly go through what users will see the first time they log into the system. So this is the screen users will see when they log into the system. At the top will be the org logo. These navigation icons, as well as these tiles in the middle, are the main ways that we can open up the portal to different functions to our end users. Search bar, which will search across different entities in the portal, services, tickets, assets. Our service alerts, which is on out of the box. And down below in the footer, we have some of our organization details, language selector, as well as our as I accidentally opened a new tab there, as well as our chatbot in the bottom right. So opening up the request catalog, we can see it's broken down into these different request groups. We can also have services sit outside of these groups, but out of the box, each of these has actually a second level of categorization. And then within each of those, we'll find our different service requests underneath. So each of these services could have more than one request type associated with it, and I think the peripherals is a good example where you can actually have more than one request type associated with a single service. All of these forms can also have dynamic field visibility, so I think the new starter request is a good example. Depending on options that are selected in the form, some other fields may be shown. Mandatory fields as denoted by the star, the ability to add attachments, and different field types as well. We've got some memo fields here, single select. We also have like multi-select fields, date fields, single line text fields, and in some of the request types, you'll also see a rich text field as well, which allows for marked up content such as attachments, bullet points. You'll also from time to time see these system fields. For instance, on our incident form here, this is the asset system field. So as a user, I can actually indicate which assets are impacted by my incident. From the user portal, users will also generally have access to the knowledge base and only to articles which they have access to. So jumping into these, this is how a typical article may look. It can be broken down into some different groups. And the ability for users to also leave some useful comments and feedback against the article as well. Any tickets awaiting a user's approval will be visible from the portal. They'll also receive an email, and they can always jump into their My Tickets and view all the tickets they've logged previously, or any open tickets as well. They can search, jump into any of these tickets, add any further comments to them if that option's enabled, which we'll see here it is. And they can even self-resolve the tickets. They can see things like the status and the workflow, which are two separate trackers of a ticket's lifecycle within Halo. So let's jump back to the agent portal and go through how we would actually action an incoming ticket. So I'm going to jump into the pre-configured incidents ticket area, and let's take a hold of one of these new incidents. Actually, we'll jump into the unassigned queue and grab this one at the very top. So we'll assume that this is a new incident that has come into the platform. What I might actually do is reset the workflow on this just purely for demonstration purposes. And this is just a little admin trick. Just going to change the source to chat and set the workflow to none, and then back to incident, which will effectively start the workflow again. The reason I wanted to do that is so we can see this out of the box incident management workflow, which gives you a really good sense for how Halo is structured around ticket management. So in Halo, managing your tickets is pretty much all based on the workflow. If I open up the incident management workflow, we can see the workflow and essentially the steps that need to be taken for us to resolve this ticket. Now this is structured a little bit grotesquely out of the box, but effectively what we're looking at is the ticket will start in this stage here. We have the ability to use the triage action, and that action is going to move us into in progress. And once we're in progress, we can then use these additional actions. For us to get to resolved based on the workflow, we need to use the resolve ticket action. Workflows can also define things such as automations with conditions, end user actions, as well as approval conditions, and a few other bits and pieces as well. So from our ticket, we'll use the triage action. This is an out-of-the-box action, which is going to show us different fields based on how the action has been configured. So in this case, it's showing us the ticket type field, so we could change the ticket type if it's actually not an incident. We can reassign the ticket or assign it to ourselves. Update the impact and urgency if the user has input those incorrectly. Same thing for the category. Assign any assets and add any notes. That's just one action in the platform, and Halo actions will be what basically do everything in the system. So as you can see at the top here, emailing the end user, adding a private note, creating an appointment, resolving the ticket. Anytime you want to interact with the ticket, it's probably going to be through some sort of action. They are very configurable. So we can see on the ticket as well, we can see the SLA, low priority, the end user's details, their open tickets. If the user had any assets, this is the general user, so they would also show down the bottom here. We can see some of the tickets details here in the ticket information side pane, the workflow, the ticket type. In the center is our progress view. So all of our actions used against the ticket will add a little update to our progress screen, including if the user was to email back or add any notes into this ticket. We can see different tabs that'll come and go based on the context of the ticket. For instance, any assets. If AI is enabled, this will generally be populated. Any additional custom fields may be shown in some tabs. If there was child tickets, we'd also see child tickets. We can enable audit logs. There's a whole host of other tabs that could be shown. Above that is the tickets workflow stage, the ticket ID, and the ticket's title or summary as shown at the top here. So let's jump into the organizations area, or the CRM. You can imagine what's shown in each of these different ticket areas, basically the same as what we just saw, but different ticket types, different views that may have been pre-configured. In the CRM though, we can see all of the users within the platform. They could be broken down by different sites or even by different clients as well. Each of these different levels gives us a whole host of options for role-based access control, dashboard and reporting possibilities, as well as overriding elements such as what email templates you want to send to site A or B, or client A or B, or what branding should client A see on the portal versus client B. CMDB, we're going to see all of our devices and services in the platform. So Halo's recently made quite a big progression in how the CMDB is structured, and it's no longer just showing us laptops and mobile phones. It also contains all of our different services and applications as part of our organization. And with that, it can be as detailed or minimal, depending on sort of the maturity that the organization sits at. But out of the box, it actually comes with a few really good examples that you can look at. If we jump into our business apps and into, let's choose Workday as an example, you can sort of start to see the value in defining these relationships, in that we can see what the primary service is, any associated technical services, any hardware that might be associated with our service as well. So when it comes to things like change requests, problems, incidents, when they're affecting a specific application, we can really understand what the upstream and downstream impacts of those tickets might be. This is a better example where we can see some hardware down the very bottom, and we can see the very top level service, which might have perhaps a business or technical owner associated with it. Contracts, approvals, there's our knowledge base from the agent's perspective, all of our different services, so end user loggable services, as well as our business applications. Software releases, these can be tagged against change requests, release notes. All of our different vendor records, we can log any tickets to vendors based on email addresses and have that two-way stream within the single ticket. Stock management, quotes and purchase orders, shifts, timesheets, reports, some out-of-the-box dashboards, the ability to store and structure different documents or PDFs or any attachment really. Events and event management, chats, so live chats with users, virtual agent history, and then our configuration area down the very bottom as well. And so this is the area where we'll configure every aspect of Halo. There's no additional top level admin ×2 or admin squared config areas. It's everything is within this single configuration view. For instance, if we wanted to change the name of the tenant in the system, we could do that. Add departments, add teams, add roles, look at or modify any of our agents, invite new agents, configure our mailbox integration, adjust our email templates used in the platform, all of our various different ticket options, so defining new ticket types or forms, the different options against those forms, workflows, approval processes, fields, defining our different actions and modifying the behavior of those. Maybe we wanted a different note to be added to the progress view, when triage is used. Our ticket categorization and the values, organizing fields into field groups to really make our forms nice and easy to use. Ticket rules, when X do Y. Schedule tickets, create on a recurring schedule. Our SLAs, response and resolutions, as many SLAs as needed, generally request an incident at the very least with our different timeframes. Ticket templates, which are very valuable in defining child ticket creation. So for a new starter request as an example, you might want to create some child tickets, their own tickets with their own fields, workflows as needed, and we might have some rules against the creation of these as well. And our different workflows. You'll find the same level of configurability for things like assets, knowledge base, our stock control, notifications as well. So sending in-app or emails or SMSs to different recipients based on criteria. Our reporting config, our self-service portal config, a background, our logo, what options we want to give users. Vendors, custom objects, so new custom fields, custom tables that could be used to store data behind the scenes or could be interacted with by users if we wanted to present a table as a field. Custom tabs to organize our fields, especially for longer forms, we can have additional tabs. Custom integrations, if we ever need to create a bit more logic than we have natively within the workflows area, we can define our very own custom integrations, which is very cool. So these are going to be strings of different commands within the platform. Those commands could be things like Halo API actions, creating a ticket. It could be iterating across arrays. It could be running SQL against your Halo database to return some data, or it could be a completely custom integration method, which is very cool. We can direct those at your Halo instance or to a completely external system. So basically, it's a built-in native way to have custom integrations all handled through this engine builder. And then finally, our integrations area, where you'll find hundreds of different native integrations, the most common of which is going to be our Entra ID. This one takes about 20-30 minutes to set up. You'll also find Intune, Landsweeper, SCCM, Ninja One, Snipe IT, and hundreds of others. Within our integrations, we also have the ability to define webhooks as well as lookups as well, which allow us to return data dynamically when a ticket is being interacted with based on a trigger, which is very useful if, for instance, when a user is logging a form, they select a specific department. We wanted to show them that department's manager on the form. In real time, we could use a lookup to do that by defining the trigger field, the lookup, and then the output of that lookup. So that's a quick overview of Halo, some of the key areas you probably would want to see within the platform. Of course, there's so much more detail that could be had for each of those areas. The main sort of sense to get is that Halo can do quite a lot. It is very configurable, particularly in and around the workflow engine as well as the integration runbooks. They allow for quite a lot of logic and workflows to be built. One of the biggest gotchas to be aware of with Halo is with just how configurable it is and how many of these massive settings screens you'll see. More often than not, you don't really need to change most of this. And in probably 80-90% of implementations, we'll only make a few minor tweaks here and there as needed. Thankfully, it does come pre-configured to just work out of the box. There are also typically more than one way to achieve the same result in Halo. For instance, we have our actions, automations, notifications, ticket rules, integration runbooks. All of those could be used in one way or another to achieve sending an email outside of the system. There's usually a preferred way to do it, and having that knowledge of the best way to approach a solution like that is where that relationship with a partner does become quite valuable. The last thing I mention is Halo as a platform is very configurable. And once you have an understanding of how all of the different bits and pieces fit together, where that specific checkbox you're looking for lives, and we can make use of config searching these days, thankfully, you'll find that Halo can almost always achieve the outcome you're looking for. It's very rare that there'll be a workflow that we cannot build within the platform, and the limitations will usually come about from significant UI limitations. So if, for instance, you wanted this sidebar to be on the right side of the screen and that was a must-have for your ITSM implementation, unfortunately we're out of luck in that case. But when it comes to the workflows, approvals, logic behind the processes you need, Halo is one of the more flexible platforms on the market, particularly given that it does remain fairly simple to administer in the long term.